Hello, and welcome back to Day by Day True Crime Stories, the podcast where we explore a different crime or justice milestone from this day in history. I'm your host, Kona Gallagher, and today is July 12th. On this day in 1979, one of the most ruthless figures in American organized crime met a violent and very public end. Carmine Galante, the acting boss of the Bonanno crime family, was gunned down in broad daylight at a Brooklyn restaurant. But this wasn't just another mob hit. This was a calculated move by the Mafia Commission itself. It was a warning and a glimpse into the dark workings of the Cosa Nostra. Today, we're going to be talking about Carmine Galante's incredible rise and violent fall. Let's get started. Carmine Galante was born on February 21st, 1910 in East Harlem, New York. He was the son of Sicilian immigrants and grew up in poverty. He dropped out of school in the 7th grade and turned to crime at an early age. By the time he was a teenager, Galante was already serving time in reform school for a series of offenses that included assault and robbery. During Prohibition, Galante quickly rose through the ranks of New York's criminal underworld. He became an enforcer for Vito Genovese and later worked closely with Joe Bonanno. He was known for his fierce loyalty and even fiercer violence. Galante gained a reputation for brutality. Some estimates suggest that he was connected to over 80 murders, including that of anti-fascist journalist Carlo Tresca in 1943. Nicknamed Lilo and also the cigar for his ever-present stogie, Galante didn't just work in the shadows. He became one of the most visible faces of organized crime. By the 1950s, he had taken over the Bonanno family's heroin pipeline, forging ties with the Cotroni family in Montreal and creating what would later be known as the French Connection. He was convicted on narcotics charges in 1962 and sentenced to 20 years in prison. Psychiatrists at the time described him as a paranoid psychopath, yet he was also cunning and calculating. After his release on parole in 1974, he wasted no time reclaiming his place in the Bonanno family. With boss Philip Rostelli in prison, Galante appointed himself acting boss and took over operations. When Galante returned to power, he expanded the heroin trade dramatically, but refused to share profits with other families or acknowledge the authority of the Mafia Commission. His power grab and blatant disregard for traditional rules set off alarm bells across the syndicate. By the late 1970s, Carmine Galante had made more enemies than allies. He was enriching himself at the expense of the entire Mafia network, and his Sicilian loyalists, known as Zips, only made him more unpredictable. These enforcers were fiercely loyal to Galante, but operated outside of the control of the established American mob hierarchy. Frank Thierry of the Genovese family called Galante a psychopath, while other bosses worried that his ambition threatened the stability of Cosa Nostra itself. Even from prison, Philip Rostelli petitioned the commission to take Galante out. Joseph Massino, an influential capo, backed the move. The Mafia Commission, the ruling council of the five families, met and decided unanimously. Galante had to go. His defiance had gone too far, and the unity of the American Mafia depended on restoring order. On July 12, 1979, Galante headed to lunch at Joe and Mary's Italian-American restaurant in Bushwick, Brooklyn. He was joined by Bonanno capo Leonard Nardo Coppola, his cousin Giuseppe Turano, the restaurant's co-owner, and his two Sicilian bodyguards, Cesare Bonventre and Baldassare Baldo Amato. It was a warm afternoon, about 87 degrees, and they chose to sit on the patio. Galante ordered fish, salad, fruit, and red wine. As always, he lit up his signature cigar. For all his paranoia, Galante looked relaxed. Around 2:45 p.m., a last guest arrived, Galante's nephew. As the bodyguards got up to greet him, 3 masked gunmen stormed the patio. Armed with the shotguns and pistols, they opened fire. Galante, Coppola, and Tirano were hit in a storm of bullets. Galante's cigar remained clenched between his teeth even as he slumped dead in his chair. The patio erupted in chaos. Diners screamed and fled, but the gunmen were in and out within minutes, escaping into the city. Notably, Galante's bodyguards never lifted a finger to defend him. Their inaction confirmed what the commission had arranged. The Zips had turned. The people who Galante had trusted most of all had been in on the plot all along. The assassination of Carmine Galante sent shockwaves through the criminal underworld. It wasn't just the death of a boss, it was a reset of power. With Galante gone, Philip Rastelli was reaffirmed as head of the Bonanno family, even from behind bars. Order was restored, and Joseph Massino quickly emerged as Rastelli's most trusted lieutenant. Massino would go on to become a boss himself and play a key role in the family for years to come. Galante's Sicilian faction, the Zips, lost influence. The betrayal was rewarded in the short term, but they eventually fell out of favor. Bonventre was murdered in 1984 under Massino's orders. The Galante assassination also caught the attention of law enforcement. The event was one of several that led to the famous Commission trial in the mid-1980s, which indicted and convicted top mafia leaders. The murder also reinforced a key lesson. Even at the top of the mafia, no one is untouchable. Carmine Lilo Galante believed that he was invincible, but on a hot July day in Brooklyn, he learned the hard way that power in the mafia comes with limits, and crossing those limits can be deadly. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Day by Day True Crime Stories. If you found today's story compelling, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It'll help us grow. And be sure to join me again tomorrow as we explore another significant event in true crime history. Until then, stay safe and remember that behind every headline is a life worth remembering. Day by Day True Crime Stories is a Little Monster production.
Hey, you can do it!